the Scribe podcast dedicated to the knowledge and wisdom of the ancients, predecessors, specifically in Egypt, and specifically the deity of Thoth, the god of wisdom and knowledge, the scribe, who was also the keeper of records. Um, he was a healer, and now I have a person who embodies all those aspects and continues our tradition in numerous ways. Joe Soel. How are you, Joe?
I'm well, Guy. How are you? Pleasure.
I'm good. It's such a great pleasure having you on because you have so many things you can talk about and interesting things that you have to share with the world. So, firstly, um, you're a veteran, an accomplished one at that. You have several medals of honor um, for your participation in the Iraq war. What years were you participating or you fought in the Iraq war?
I served there from March 2008 to January 2009.
Mm-hmm. So at the cusp, of the whole conflict.
Yeah,
Not
we were. I think we were the height of U.S. troop numbers in the country. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're also a pastor. You're a debutant or amateur or burgeoning musician whose album is supposed to come out anytime soon, as I gathered. You're also 32nd degree Freemason.
That's
Um, what what kind of hat do you choose to put on whenever you leave the house? Is it a pastor? Is it a veteran? Is it a mason?
it's usually Guy. It's usually one of these. I have a bunch of camo hats that I wear around that I generally slip on before I leave the house. But I'm just a guy with many interests, I guess, maybe too many interests, and that leads me to, I've always admired people like Leonardo da Vinci for being a Renaissance man. I've always wanted to be a polymath, and
Mm.
frankly, it hasn't happened yet. But I think it's something you have to develop. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Mm. Yeah, I sort of have, few appendages, I have the literary one. I also write. I also do art. I have few art exhibitions. I'm also a teacher in the university. So I have a few appendages, but I wouldn't kind of coin the term for myself as a Renaissance man or a polymath. I'm more of a polyglot. I know French and Hebrew and um, English and a bit of Italian and Romanian. So
Well, like I said, that's my goal to be a polymath. I'm not there yet.
yeah, I'm more of a polyglot. I can
Yeah.
pick up languages really, really fast and really efficiently. Um, so, uh, sorry.
You're fine.
Getting back to your book, you also wrote a book uh, called "The Broken Mirror of Memory," which deals with all the different experiences you've undergone while under the aegis of the U.S. Army in Iraq. Um, could you tell me a little bit in the audience about your experience writing the book, what you sought to accomplish by writing it?
Well, we had three major attacks while I was in Iraq, and I won't go into the details as I really want folks to check out the book, but suffice it to say, they were they were pretty traumatic. And when I came back, I was a bit of a mess. There was one incident where we had to fire on a mortar team. Um, and this isn't in the book, but it's something that my first sergeant reminded me of recently. We had to fire on a mortar team. So we were ordered to take some Hellfire missiles out to a drone, and, the drone took off. We didn't know anything else about it. And later on, we found out that, yeah, they took out the mortar team and they also took out a bunch of kids. And that really messed me up. And I kind of filed it away in the back of my memory, and with other details of specifically traumatic attacks that happened while I was in Iraq, I filed them in the back of my head, and they developed into a nice little drinking problem. And that drinking problem continued and continued as I was writing the book, and I evolved into sobriety shortly after putting the capstone on everything I remembered about Iraq, and I was going into the next phase of the book, which was, well, I didn't know, but it turned out to be, getting sober and really trying to go that route where you're no longer using alcohol as a crutch, you're no longer using drugs as a crutch, that sort of thing. And what I really found through that journey was a healing through psychedelics, which I didn't expect. I got into some psychedelic therapy, and that actually took care of a lot of the addiction issues and a lot of the trauma issues. So I threw that in the book too. So it's sort of a stew, if you will. It's the story of my time in Iraq, my coming home, my struggles with addiction, and in that way, they're the story of many veterans. It doesn't matter what country you're in or what war you're in. It just kind of snowballed into this big project that I'm really proud to be done with 15 years later and presenting to the world. Honored to present it to your listeners. And I will say right now, it is on a fire sale. It's selling at cost right now, so it's at printing costs. You can't get it any cheaper. I'm not making any money. I just want to share my story with you.
To go back to your time in Iraq as a veteran, you came to a conclusion that war was not necessarily the thing the world was lacking at the time, or even up to our kind of very convoluted and conflict ridden period of history that maybe just started. Some of the experiences you shared in your book and actually gone through in Iraq during the war, or at the cusp of the end. When we can't say end of the war, but we can say the major kind of conflict was resolved, shall we say? Not
Mm-hmm.
really, but in a general sense, it was quenched. You came to the conclusion that war was not necessarily something the world needed or still it requires uh, for human survival, because war traditionally was fought over territory. Today, war is not necessarily fought only for territorial disputes and resources, but we can say that in this case, resources played a big part in it, but they were not the major kind of factor. The major factor is a deep difference in philosophy, shall we say. We'll talk about religion later on when we talk about your part as a pastor. Um, but you came to the conclusion that I don't know if you joined the pacifistic movement, or you consider yourself a reformed kind of veteran, um, came to the conclusion or came to Jesus moment literally, and non-denominational Jesus, of course, not branded. uh, so, can you speak to your decision and conclusion that war wasn't a means to an end?
You know, it just causes so much human suffering, and it's so heartbreaking. I know that what I saw in Iraq, especially with the Iraqi children, was very heartbreaking, and I don't want to see that happen to anyone, anywhere, in any country, for any reason. Really, it's if we took the resources collectively as a species, taking politics out of it, taking ideology out of it, taking everything out of it. If we just look at ourselves as one human family, which is how I look at us, one species stuck on a rock going around the sun, which is really strange to think about. Um, we're going to spend our time and our money, which is another thing I'd like to get rid of, is money in general. But that's a whole nother story. Um, we spend our resources trying to come up with better ways to kill each other when
Mm,
we could be focusing on getting off the planet. We could be focusing on becoming a multiplanetary species. We could be
mm.
focusing on becoming an interstellar species. What
A
about
more like a Neil deGrasse Tyson type of approach to
right?
humanity.
Right. We could start with just feeding everyone that needs food, or
Mm,
making sure people have shoes, or just generally taking care of our fellow human beings could be a start. I mean, just imagine if we put all the money and resources that we put into giant killing machines
mm.
into actually taking care of our fellow human beings. What a different world we would have. But I don't think there's too many that agree with me. But I'm hoping those that do might hear me and go, hey, that guy might have a point. I know he's a little crazy, but he might have a point. You know, um, it might be time to focus on getting off this planet before some larger disaster befalls us.
You know about the story of the Israeli astrophysicist who kind of researched and discovered an outer solar kind of object
Yep.
passing through our galaxy or our near or our approximate, shall we say, neighborhood.
About Extraterrestrial by Ave Loeb. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the one. Very, very interesting theory. I don't know how it holds up, but his theory was that the object known as a Muamua
Mm-hmm.
might be some kind of solar sail left over from a spacecraft. So I found that interesting. I really wish we would have caught up with the thing. Then we would know for sure. But we weren't investing our money in too much space travel. We were too busy killing each
Yeah.
other, so we couldn't go after it. So
Yeah, the object already passed through our kind of Milky Way and was on its way, I don't know, wherever,
Mhm.
deep, deep past our solar system.
It's gone.
And
We'll never know now.
yeah, it's gone. But telephotic kind of lenses that can actually capture or high speed kind of luminous cameras that can pick up the light coming from photon cameras and stuff like this that can pick up the resonance or the remnants of light emanating from that object back into the lens. Perhaps it could capture a better image or a
Hmm.
more complete kind of image of the object, but we'll never know. So,
We'll just never know.
so
So all we have is speculation. But
wh-
yes, I
I
read his.
wasn't going to. Yeah, sorry, pardon.
Yeah, I read his book. I found it very interesting.
Yeah, well, I wasn't planning on talking about this subject, but let's try, okay? Let's try
Yes.
to talk about it. I kind of delved into the rabbit hole of conspiracy kind of theories when
Mhm.
it comes to the dating of humanity.
Mm.
Um, just saying that Homo sapiens existed over 300,000 years ago or so. So, taking into account the kind of mainstream scientific claim that humanity or biologists or whatever claim that humans existed on this planet as in the form of Homo sapiens for 300,000 years ago, BC at least. So humanity and its kind of gradual advances or the advents of humanity were kind of mistakenly underappreciated
Mm.
and by academics and researchers, and the growth of the intelligence of a human, of a Homo sapien, was vastly underrated um, by biologists and of the 19th century, Darwin uh, per se. What do you think? Do you think that civilization, that civilization, that acculturated high culture, advanced technology, advanced, I mean, the predecessors or the primitive advances, what they would consider kind of ingenuity, kind of, innovation, um, is not dated dating back to 6,000 years ago from Samaria and Mesopotamia, which is Iraq, of course, but rather kind of, I won't say, Plato called that place kind of Lemuria,
Hmm.
or other researchers or modern philosophers and mystics called it Atlantis. But what do you think about it? It's very hard, to parse through because there's a lot of material and things that you need to address when
Hmm.
talking about this topic. But what's your personal view of it?
I think it's quite possible that humanity had a large scale technological civilization before the start of the last ice age. And a lot of it would have been ground under by glaciers and simply done away with. It would have been ground into the ground and just done. I think it's quite possible. Um, I don't know for certain, and I'm not an expert in that field. I know there's a few TV shows out on the History Channel right now that are exploring that very topic that I do
Yeah,
watch.
the History
History
Channel, of
Channel,
course.
yeah, yeah, and I do find it very interesting. I think it's an interesting theory, and I would be thrilled, just thrilled if it was proven true. I think that would be very exciting. I'm very excited by the possibility. Let's put it that way. Um, I'm waiting to see some evidence. I would love, love, love to see some evidence.
The evidence has to be gathered. It has to be in a kind of mosaic. You have to gather all the pieces and kind of try to see if they actually fit. From all sides. You can't just jam it in and just press that notion or that I wouldn't say a conspiracy, but that theory. When you use the word theory, it means that something is very established.
Yes.
It's very well researched.
Mhm.
It's accepted by a lot of the members, or the peer review system has been implemented in that case, and then you can coin it as a theory. Yeah, when you have a cohesive narrative that you actually built, which is accepted as you have a consensus in a lot of its moving parts. Anything else you want to add on, on that subject? I know there's a lot of things, but
Oh,
if
there's
you
a lot
want,
of stuff there. Do I think it's possible? I think that anything is possible. Um, I think it'd be very interesting to find evidence of that. I think it'd be interesting to find evidence of the ancient astronaut theory too. I think that would be interesting. Um,
yeah,
I
yeah.
would love, I would love for that to be true. What's the quote? The guy goes, "Aliens." I would, I would, I would very much like that to be the case. Do I think it's possible? Yes, I think both theories are possible. I find them fascinating. Um, do I see a lot of actual evidence? That I don't know. Um, but I think they're interesting TV shows to watch, and I'm waiting to see what they discover. I'm very excited by it. I'm a big fan of Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. I don't know if you've heard that or not. Um, but
And I don't think so, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's a fascinating show. A lot of aliens, but of course, subscribe to Thoth first, obviously, before you,
Oh,
go looking
thank
for
you.
other
Yeah,
shows. I saw some interesting, similar things. I saw some ancient cuneiform writing when I got to visit the city of Ur in Iraq. The birthplace of Abraham, as luck would have it, um, according to well,
the Bible. Yeah.
the Bible. Yeah, and it was very interesting. Just going to see, the ancient ruins of that city, thinking about the Anunnaki and all that sort of thing. It was just very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
That's another interesting,
yes, it was it
thing
was
to
a
think about. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The Anunnaki is a kind of, is a frozen monkey wrench in a lot of theories, but it's very weird.
Yes.
I will admit. Um, it doesn't compute. When did you start being a pastor, or was it something where you brought up with religion? Pardon my intrusive question.
I I was ordained in 2018, um, and my goal is just to be a servant of God in the world and lead others to be servants of God in the world, and that's what I do now. I just try to feed the poor whenever I see them, um, and I'm working on starting my own church in the next 5 years. I'm coming up with a plan for it. You have to organize it sort of like a like a nonprofit, so it's all very involved. Luckily, I have some experience in the nonprofit sector, so um, I'm able to build on those experiences. And most recently, I worked as a hospital chaplain at the hospital near my home, and that was really life changing. Just trying to bring the light of God into a place where there's not a lot of light is really a blessing. And I found it to be a blessing to myself as well as to the people that I was visiting. So,
Yeah. So, if you were to draft your first sermon, what would it contain?
what would it contain? Probably the part of the gospel where Jesus says, "For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me food. I was a stranger and you took me in. I was sick or in prison and you visited me. I was naked and you clothed me." To me, that's the heart of Christian charity, and it's not expounded upon enough. Um, there's all this fire and brimstone and this and that and the other thing, but we don't really expound upon the charitable values of Christianity that I think we should. So, um, my church would be one of almost absolute charity, almost to the point of hurting, I think. Um, so, I think that's what God wants us to be. He wants us to love. I really think God wants us to love. He doesn't want us to hate. And I think that I would focus on God's love rather than rules and regulations and commandments and edicts. I would focus on the key commandment, which is you will love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your strength and all your mind, and you'll love your neighbor as yourself. So
Mm.
that's what I would focus on.
Were you brought up with religion within the family?
Yeah, I was raised in, well, I was baptized Catholic and raised Methodist, and I got into really deep spiritual study, and um, I would call it, I would call the study very ecumenical because it just encompasses the entire breadth of world religions. I just said, I'll suck it all up. I'll take it all. And I've read many holy books from all over the world, and I've just come to the consensus that a lot of religions deep down are teaching the same basic lessons. It's just about interpretation. And sometimes with human beings, we get our hands on the interpretation and it causes bad things to happen. But I find that in general, they're teaching basically the same basic principles. Don't be a jerk, just be a decent human being, that sort of thing. Treat others with kindness, do charity to the poor. It's all basically in there. Um, it's just our interpretation that's different. And we get so caught up in interpretation, man. Boy, do we get caught up in interpretation that, oh, you know, you say that God says this. No, no, no. I think God said that. And then you end up fighting each other over it. It seems silly to me because the basics of the real the tenets of the faith are different, but the basic lessons are the same. That's what I find fascinating about a comparative religion. And I found it all over the world, really. The more I read, the more I found that, despite doctrinal differences, God is one, God is three, God is one. That's sort of the evolution of the Abrahamic monotheistic religions. God is one. No, God is three. No, God is one again. But really, we're teaching very similar things along the way when you go to the basic undercurrents of the faiths. Um, you're learning a lot of the same lessons. You're taught to be decent to other people, and why we can't seem to put that into practice as a species, I don't know. Maybe we're not ready yet. Maybe we're not close enough to God yet. I don't know what we're doing wrong, but it sure seems like we're screwing up quite a bit.
Yeah, we're interplanetary kind of 5 year program or plan is all screwed up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all messed up, man. And that's my goal is to get us back on track. We need to, I really want our species to get back on track and just, hey man, we got to get off this planet. We really do. And we've got to treat our neighbors well. We've got to treat our brothers and sisters well. And we could start with just making sure that everyone's basic needs are met.
Yeah, they think that will just start, multi-planetary kind of conflicts
Oh
or
no, sadly, you're probably right. I don't think we'll see an end to war. I would like it, but I don't think we'll see an end to war. And I argue for it a lot in the book. You know, I argue, uh, I argue in the book for a resource-based economy. One that's not based on money. Doing away with banking altogether, because during the Depression, they had many, many, many millions of people out of work from all over the world. The resources and the factories and the labor power, the actual number of people willing to work, it all remained completely unchanged. And the factories were just sitting there. But nobody could pay, so no one was working. Things weren't being produced, things of that nature. When if we really take a different perspective, and again I do argue for it in the book that we go towards a resource-based economy, similar to what the Zeitgeist movies propose. Um, we might find that we actually have a better society than the one that we have now. But we don't seem to be doing that. We seem to just simply be circling the drain or careening towards some sort of destruction, and most of us are just along for the ride going, what are these people who are actually in charge doing? It's I mean, it's scary, you know? We seem to elect these people, but when you really look at them, you know, no matter what country, no matter who they are, they all seem to have the same basic ideology. When you really get down to it, they all seem to have the same base ideology. And I think behind closed doors, a lot of them are all buddy buddy, even if they don't appear to be in,
Mhm.
in public.
They
I think they're getting.
hold positions which a lot of these people sometimes hold positions they are not well endowed or equipped to actually traverse these waters,
Mm,
which are very murky. I would say very murky, very complex. The currents shift, to all directions at any given time, and in that kind of
yeah, you gotta
yeah.
wonder sometimes. With some of these people, you really do. You gotta wonder. Um, I know, for example, that I wouldn't be equipped for it. I certainly wouldn't want to be a world leader. I would say something stupid, or I would tell one of the guys who's starting a war that he's full of shit. I would just say, "Hey,
Yeah.
Indian, stop it, will you?" You know, I'm I'm almost certain I would say something stupid. So um, I don't know the solution. I think that I think that artificial intelligence will probably offer us a solution here, whether we are comfortable with it or not. I think it's gonna
Mm,
expand exponentially, and it may end up running a lot of production, um, especially through automation and robotics. We may see in the next 100 years that the need for a lot of large corporate entities and a lot of large governments go away, and we simply have the computer. And I'm wondering what that'll look like. Whether it'll be good or bad, I don't know, but I think we may just end up having the computer, which again
the,
might be worse. We don't know, but it can't be. It can't be
mhm.
necessarily worse than being run by a group of sociopaths, which is what I think we have now, one way or the other.
The next step in evolution will be something like that, like the Matrix, a
Mm,
world built by machines, um, for machines. What do you think about that? The kind of dangers of AI and actually giving so much authority and teaching that machine, which is not a physical machine, um, so much about humanity, and perhaps it can turn, rear its ugly head one day and comes back to bite us, and you know what.
mm. It's a similar question to what I posit in the book about nuclear weapons. How we all have our fingers on the button simultaneously, going, don't do it, or I'll press it." You know,
Yeah.
everyone has their finger on the trigger around the world right now. But and I'd like us to get rid of those damn things myself. But I am concerned about a generalized artificial intelligence in some ways, especially if it is malevolent. Um,
Mm.
I wouldn't want it to be malevolent, and it depends on who's programming it, then I suppose. But then, if it's generalized artificial intelligence, it could evolve on its own, and it could then decide, hey, we need to do away with humanity altogether. We'd want to have a kill switch, I think. I think we'd want to have we'd want to have someone with their finger on the cord to go yank it out of the wall real quick. Um, yeah, that's it's actually very terrifying to think about. Right now, AI can't seem to even spell a sentence right sometimes. So I I'm not too concerned about it at the present moment. I don't think ChatGPT is going to take over the world yet, but give it give it 100 years, give it 200 years, which really isn't that long of time in the grand scale of things. You do have to wonder what's coming. Um, yeah, I think it's a great movie plot, and it could be the plot to our future if we're not careful. If we just have unlimited technological advancement with no checks and balances, I do kind of worry about that. But I hope, I hope that's a worry for future generations and not for anyone I know.
Yeah, we have movies like I, Robot,
Yeah.
based based on the writings of Isaac Asimov,
Mm-hmm.
a great Russian American Jewish science fiction writer, perhaps the greatest. We have Deus Ex Machina, which
Mm-hmm.
is another great modern film. What
Mm-hmm.
iRobot is modern, but it's from the 2000s. We have, of course, the great classic 2001 Odyssey
Mm-hmm.
uh, by the
Space Odyssey.
great Stanley Kubrick, another great Jewish American. This is a kind of a nativity. And there are people who are oligarchs and technocrats that will argue that this is a kind of a nativity of the new Messiah. This
Hmm.
is the second coming. This is the advent, the peak of human ingenuity and
Hmm.
innovation.
And it's all
So,
downhill from here.
what do humans have to offer that a computer can't, replace in 2 seconds?
Hmm.
Maybe it can, seal in a factory. It can seal the cans, the can of Campbell's soup,
Mm-hmm.
uh, 10 times or 100 times faster than a human can actually seal one of the cans, and a machine can do that, 100 times in 5 minutes, shall we think? Um, so to kind of play devil's advocate here, what is the function? What is the beneficial kind of um, beneficial side or advantage that humans have over computer and artificial intelligent almost life forms, we
Right.
can call them.
They're getting closer, aren't they? Um,
Yeah.
I think right now our benefit is our ability to truly create, to actually put our ideas into practice. Once a generalized artificial intelligence is smart enough to create on its own and really create, not just copy someone else, but actually create something original, um, then we might be getting into trouble. You'd have to have something in the programming where it just couldn't harm humans. You would want that in the programming. You really would. Um, I think there's great dangers and great benefits to it. But what's stopping them from doing away with us? Especially if they get that advanced. Um, I don't exactly know. I'm not an expert in the field, certainly. But I do follow it with. I do follow it from the sidelines with an amateur curiosity, and I do have to wonder. Right now, I think again it would just have to be our ability to create something new, our ability to actually manipulate our environment, our own perceptions, change our own environment, and actually create something new, whether it be art, music, writing, anything. Right now, that's our advantage, and that's an example of our intelligence, and it's how we're creating AI. So, ironically, it may be our undoing. So, um, yeah, what's stopping it from getting rid of us? Especially if it gets smart enough? Nothing. Not necessarily anything. But there may be safeguards that I can't envision too. So,
Hmm.
um, I don't. I don't particularly have the answer to that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah. You always see in these kind of post-apocalyptic robotic movies, that the safeguard that doesn't work, and it has a backup, an independent autonomous backup system that it has fashioned from nothing, assumedly, um, which is a kind of mind-boggling, because you don't want to have that feature programmed in. So why would they have it? So
Exactly. Why would they do that?
yeah, because we assume that it has all the components or the digital kind of data to be able to construct an overriding program that will activate when the original kind of shuts down or fails. Um, I don't know. It's like the source, in the Matrix. Let's talk about your entrepreneurship. Whenever I hear that word now, entrepreneurship, I always think of Shark Tank, which I became an I became an avid watcher, of Shark Tank. Evans, Kevin O'Leary, and the other guy, yeah, Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like them, as a businessman. I study their kind of savvy methods, and I study all the logistics and technological terms, for the business world,
Right.
the kind of the business lingo. But your entrepreneurship takes a different form. It's more charitable.
Yes. Yes. It's more of a charitable entrepreneurship. It's more of a nonprofit entrepreneurship. And like I said, I'm working on building my own church, and that's the big goal right now. And I want it to be as big as Joel Osteen's, but actually do something to help people. You know what I mean? Actually do
I
something.
heard
That
of
would be
them.
nice,
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
yeah. I'm not American, just so people
Oh, okay.
know that.
Joel Osteen is, for those who don't know, he's a large mega church pastor. Hello, my
Yeah,
friend.
I just heard that name, uh,
Mm. Okay, so he's a large
somewhere,
mega church
somewhere. Yeah.
pastor, and he has millions and millions of dollars. He has this large church, and he wouldn't open it up during a hurricane to let people shelter during a hurricane in it. People who had lost their homes. So I want my church to be as big as his, but actually do something.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add? Well, first off, this was a great, great conversation. You're such an approachable, kind of down to earth guy, but simultaneously, you also you hold steadfast to your values, and I think we learned a lot from each other, and I learned a lot from hearing your story. So, what's your kind of take, or a few closing words you would like to say to the audience?
Well, my take is, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you too. It really has. I'm glad to have a friend on the other side of the planet. That's always a nice thing to have. Um, and to the audience, I would just say, you got to be humble, be kind, and most of all, work for peace in your world, in your community, in your family, in your life. And if you can, and I would greatly appreciate it, just go out and check out the book, The Broken Mirror of Memory. It looks like this on Amazon. And like I said, it's at cost right now. It's at printing cost.
I like
Because,
the cover. Yeah, the
yeah,
cover is very polished. It's
yeah,
not it's not a generic. I like it. I like
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Very
yeah, it's
polished. It's
very,
very contemporary. I think. Yeah. It's
yeah.
also.
Ah, I have a dog here that
I
likes to
just
bark.
would like to thank you so much for agreeing to appear on my podcast. It was a great pleasure, especially because I saw you were a pastor, you were a veteran, you wrote a book. Um, you just seem like a pleasant face. at first and first impression. Um, yeah, it was awesome, and hopefully we can talk next time. We'll talk about your album.
Well, I I would love to come on anytime. It's been a real pleasure meeting you, and getting to talk to your audience. And I really hope they do check out the book. It's my humble account to the world of just one human's one human's journey. One little guy's journey. That's all it is. Just one little guy's journey. And I thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's just a one little guy's journey, and that's humilitude. I think at its finest.
Just humility in all things is important. But thank you so much.
Yeah, humility and all things is the most important. You heard it here first, folks. And thank you for watching. Bye.